Hello and welcome to the preview on the Fulhamish YouTube channel. My name's Elizabeth Barnard, and today the race for Europe might be over, but something even more important is on the line this weekend: local pride. And for this one, I am delighted to be joined by Billy the Bee. Billy, how are you doing?
I'm very well, Elizabeth. How are you?
I'm really, really well. I'm excited for this game. How are you feeling about it?
I'm feeling pretty, I'm feeling pretty, I say excited actually. I'm excited the fact that the weather's come out. You know what I'm saying? We've got a bit of sun, so finally we can actually kind of get our legs out, And we, as you know, as probably a Fulhamish listeners know, we always like a bit of pre-match action as well, a little bit of
Mm.
pre-match activity. So getting out before the game down the river, have a few beers before the game and a few beers after the game. That's kind of what I'm looking forward to as well. Very much looking forward to this game. I'll be honest with you, it's almost like one of these games that I wasn't really looking forward to because I'm not making any excuses, but our season has been another one of those interesting seasons where, at the start we were obviously Ivan Toney left. We go and end up buying a player who, we were very excited about, Igor Thiago. We thought, yeah, we got Igor Thiago, he's from Brazil. We bought him from Bruges. We left him with Bruges. They won the league and everything like that. Then he's come over to us. We thought, yeah, Igor's going to take over. Ivan who? And then he plays his first pre-season game against AFC Wimbledon. First game. Turns out, scores a hat-trick in half-time. Goes away. Second doesn't come out second half. We don't see him again for like 4 months. Turns out, plays a couple of games. Haven't seen him again since. And literally, he's just been injured. And that's been the story of our last couple of seasons. 2 seasons, possibly even 3 seasons as well. So we've just had all these players that are out injured. Rico Henry's been out for way over a year, probably almost close to 2 years. Aaron Hickey, close to sort of a year and a half, 2 years, something like that. All these players, key players, being out for us. So it's really hard because we don't end up buying players just to replace them. So we end up getting our squad players in to replace these players. And these players have done a really, really good job, but it's not the same as having your key players in. So we've come into the season thinking, oh no, we've lost Igor, we've lost Rico's still not back, Hickey's not back. Oh no, Jensen's injured. Oh, we've got so many injuries. So we were like seeing this season as being as a swimming in the water season, and let's just see how it goes. So the fact that we're actually singing songs about European tours with 3 games to go is a little bit of a surprise to me. It has to be said, and to lots of other Bees fans, and we're just enjoying it. Listen, if it happens, it's great. The likelihood of it happening, I think, is very, very slight still, but at least it gives us something to play for. But the reason why I say that about the Fulham game is I was thinking, oh my God, we're going to play Fulham 3 games before the end of the season with all these injuries. Oh, what a nightmare. But now it's actually turned it into a bit of a key game for us as
Mm.
well. So we've actually got something to play for. So yes, ask me the question. I am looking forward to this game, very much so.
Yeah, you speak about your season so far, and Brentford obviously have found form at exactly the right point. 4 wins in a row, including against some very impressive opponents like Nottingham Forest and Brighton. At the same time, Fulham have managed to lose 4 of our last 5, totally ejecting us now from that European race. I think all Fulham fans are saying it's over. It's not going to happen. The only win we've got in those last 5 was a last-minute winner against Southampton, who famously are Southampton, and were almost the worst team in Premier League history. So you're coming into this one in a really good run of form, and Brentford haven't won 5 in a row in the top flight since 1939. Do you think maybe this Sunday you're going to make that all-important 5 in a row?
Okay, so you're asking me to do the old Mystic Meg here, and I'm not going to get involved in that. Far, far too dangerous. As we know, when it comes to games like this, all those stats and all that nonsense goes straight out the window. Absolutely straight out the window. You can get look at the other day, what Nottingham Forest versus Ipswich. Was it no Nottingham Forest versus Leicester? There you go. Two
Mm.
local rivals come together. I spoke to my Leicester mates, the big, strong Leicester boys, okay? And I just said to them, look, you've only got one job. You've only got one job. And they just went, mate, we're not even going to get out of our half. Like, saying they completely written their team off. Next minute, bang, they're in there, they're going ahead. You know what I'm saying? They've got the equaliser late. It was just brilliant, and it was because of that local derby. I think Jamie Vardy probably gave him a bit of a nudge saying, listen, boys, right, we need to kind of sort ourselves out here because we can't go out of this league embarrassing ourselves. So when it comes to games like this, it all goes out the window. So it's Fulham, Brentford. Traditionally, we've always been the team that has kind of upped the ante when it comes to this game because, as you know, our history does go back further than sort of 4 or 5 years. It goes back to the 80s. If you're going to, I mean, like I said to you, I was going to Brentford Fulham games back in the 80s, and it was quite tasty. I think the word is back then. I'm saying it was quite feisty between the two. Between everything that went on back in those days, and that's kind of gone on. So, like, probably sort of kind of like the slightly more older school Brentford and Fulham fans will remember those days. So they will say, listen, this is a game that we can't lose. But also, when we've gone into the game, we've got our guy Peter Gillam, who's been, on the club mic for years, and he knows the whole Brentford history. He knows about, QPR trying to take over our club in 1967 and stuff like that. And he used to sit down with the Brentford players before matches and tell them about the history, and especially before the Fulham match. It's almost like they sat in the classroom, and he just said to them, look, listen, they just schooled them. And they just said, this is the score. I know that you're new to the club, but this is what the history is about, and this is this, and this is Fulham. And we used to always go out, and we used to 9.5 times out of 10 come out and really be up for it. And I remember, Sammy from your Fulham, she used to say to me, I can't understand. Why is Brentford always more up for it every time we play you? And that was kind of part of the thing, because they actually got that education process in there. Now, I don't know, now that we're Premier League, and listen, you're a very good side, very good manager, very good players, very good side, and we're both sort of kind of mid-table Premier League teams. I don't know if that kind of process has kind of disappeared off the face of the earth a little bit because we've kind of moved on. I'm hoping it hasn't, but I don't know how much some of the new players, will understand the importance of the Brentford Fulham fixture to kind of have that same type of attitude when they go into the game. So I don't know. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I do think in previous games, the game against Chelsea that we played at Stamford Bridge, before that, Marco Silva has shown the players the Louis Beaumorte goal that was so important, and obviously wrote him into Fulham folklore at the Bridge, and sort of shown them and said, this is what you could be to fans for the rest of your life and career. So I do definitely think these things are spoken about in the dressing room. And so I'm hopeful that when we get to Sunday, both teams are going to be up for it. But last year, this fixture, again, summery kind of months, and it was the most drab 0-0 I think I've ever had the misfortune of watching.
Yeah, I brought my Brazilian mate over for that, actually. In the World Cup, I met this guy, Fernando, in Belo Horizonte, England's last game, and I was desperate to get to the airport. We were struggling, and traffic was gridlocked, so I just put my finger out to start hitchhiking, and this wind his window down and go, hey, man, where you going? I'm going to the airport. I've got to get a flight to Recife. I'm going to go to the USA Germany game. Don't worry, man. I'll give you a lift. So he gave us a lift. I've ended up becoming really good mates with him. So he's now flown over for last year. He did a whole tour of England, and he's come over, learnt about Brentford. He's come over. I've given him the Brentford top. He was just so excited about coming to the Brentford game. He goes, I want to come to the Fulham game, man. I've heard it's like the Fulham game is the game. And I'm like, we've got other games we're playing, this Newcastle or whatever like that. No, I want to come to the Fulham game. So he came to that game, and it was 0-0, and it was terrible. And but he's such a nice guy. He's going, man, I still loved it, man. I really enjoyed it. I'm thinking, you're the only person in that stadium that enjoyed that match, because everyone else has fallen asleep because it was rubbish.
Yeah, it does feel like 2 hours of my life that even now I still haven't got back. I'd love to talk about where Brentford can hurt Fulham then on Sunday. Where are your key threats? Where are you going to be able to put goals into the Fulham net?
I mean, it's about putting the ball into the net, but also it's about people, doing things in other areas. The most obvious thing is obviously talking about Bryan Mbeumo. Everyone, now knows who Bryan Mbeumo is. I mean, from Mbeumo from back in the Championship days when he was still part of the BMW, the feared BMW, you know what I'm saying, which is Mbeumo. I keep forgetting it. It was Mbeumo, Maupay. No, God, I can't remember BMW. Watkins and Mbeumo and Maupay, wasn't it? BMW. Yeah, I think it was. I can't even remember, actually. It was like so long ago. But I don't think Maupay was part of it. But anyway, BMW, they scored, but I think they scored 58 goals in the season between the three of them. It's Ben Rama. Of course it was. Ben Rama. So, so Ben Rama, and Mbeumo and Watkins. Okay, 57 goals between the three of them. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. But at that stage, and he was quite young in the Championship. So he still had a lot to learn. But again, you could see that he had the traits to be a. He was apparently on the terraces, he was the training field. He was so skillful, so clever, really focused player. And they just said he's going to be a massive player. So he's just stuck with us and he's developed and he's a great player. And also he's benefited from Ivan Toney leaving Brentford as well. So Ivan Toney, everyone goes, I saw about Ivan Toney, great player. Yeah, but he left. But what he's done is that sometimes some players are sort of so big, everything's about them. And as soon as they get removed from the field of play, as such, it gives other people time to grow. And Brian Mbeumo is one of those players. The other one is Johan Wieser. And Johan Wieser is probably more of a surprise because he was always a bit more of a super sub. He was one of those players, even Brentford fans would go, oh, yeah, bring on Wieser with like 15 minutes to go. And he'll run around and just run around like a nutter for 15 minutes. And then he might sort of nick a goal. And that was kind of his role. And anytime you used to put him to start a game, you're like, oh, Wieser isn't as effective when he starts games. Oh, no, what are we doing that for? Of course, when Ivan Toney goes, we're like, we haven't got any other players. Like, Wieser, you can play now. So all of a sudden you throw him into the mixer, and he's now become a much better player, and he's learned his game, and he's very dangerous. And the fact that we've got three players, we've got Kevin Schade as well, who came from Germany. He's been for us for this, a couple of seasons now, and everyone sort of wrote him off thinking he's rubbish, but he's scored over 10 goals. So we've got three players that have scored over 10 goals in our team, which is good because you're thinking who should we mark. But for me, I'm going to point out a couple of other players, which I think are very key to us, who aren't in those kind of forward positions, because Norgaard's a very obvious great player. Flecken. Mark Flecken, right, goalkeeper, came to us first season terrible, right? Like rubbish. I mean, I'm not saying it in a disrespectful way, because he didn't say that as well, but he made so many mistakes, and we were like, no, what's he doing? And he was just an accident waiting to happen every single time, and we were like, are they going to get rid of him? We're going to get another keeper, but the club just stuck with him. They stuck with him. This season, he's been brilliant. I think he's got the most saves out of all the keepers in the Premier League by a long way, which is I don't know if it's a bad indication on our defence or what, but he's done really, really well. And every now and again, he has a little kind of mistake in him, but not nearly as bad as he had last season. So Mark Flecken, he's gone from being this kind of the terrorist villain, where a section of the fans, and I don't agree with that, were sort of kind of ragging him out and having a go at him, which is not great, because it's not great for his confidence. But he's come through that, turned around, put his hand up and saying, to be honest with you, I've not had the best seasons. I've made a lot of mistakes. I'm learning from that. And he's moved forward now, and he's a brilliant keeper, and he's a great shot stopper, and his distribution, which is really key for Brentford, is really great. We've lost David Raya, obviously, whose distribution was just brilliant, but he's stepping up into that zone. So he's great. A great player as well. And another one I'm going to mention, and the reason why is because he's a new player. He's a brand new player that we bought did we buy him in January? I think, we bought him. Yeah, we bought him not too long ago. Okay, because we were obviously injuries with right backs and on full backs, with Hickey and Rico Henry being out. Rico Henry, the plan was that if Rico Henry ever got injured, Aaron Hickey would step over into his place, because he could play right back and left back as well, or right and left wing back. But when they both got injured, our plans were like, oh no, all our fullbacks are injured. And we tried to manage without them, putting kind of like centre backs into right back and left back position, and moving wingers into there and everything like that. And it was all a bit makeshift, even though saying that Keane Lewis Potter, we did actually end up moving him from a swinger to a left back, and he's done really well. But we kind of got that scenario where we were kind of just square pegs in round holes. And then we ended up buying this kid, which we'd been looking at before, from Fiorentina. Coyote, right? And so we bought Coyote, and he came on, and we played a couple of games. And the one thing we noticed about him, he's very, very keen. He's very eager. Like, what I'm saying? He's like one of those players where, like, literally, he's like, oh, blimey, what's he doing? He's all over the place. Like, very, 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 very keen and eager. Plays with a smile on his face, and the kind of player, especially like I said, if you're in the lower leagues, you just love players like that, because they just get stuck in, and he's going for a tackle over on the right hand side, then on the left hand side, then he's up front, then he's up back. A little bit kind of he used to calm himself down a little bit, but the fans loved it. He came on off the bench against Arsenal, did an overlapping run, crossed the ball in, Wieser puts the ball in, and equalised against Arsenal. All the fans are singing about him. Then he's come in, and again, he's had a couple of great games and a couple of, I think Thomas Frank probably took him aside and said to him, okay, this is great. You just need to just stand still for a little bit so you can defend as well as attack. But he's actually got his own song before Christian Norgard. And Christian Norgard's been at the club, for how long? 5
Mm.
years? He hasn't got a song. Coyote has already got his own song, right? After like playing 2 games or something like that. Someone he eats spaghetti, he drinks Moretti, he hates Queens Park Rangers. Right? Okay, so it's funny Fulham doesn't come into it, but the Queens Park Rangers thing is as well. But it's quite funny. So that was very much in effect for the Ipswich game at the weekend, which was great. Going up to Ipswich, brilliant away day, brilliant place, great stadium, great fans, great atmosphere, and yeah, we packed it out. I mean, I haven't been to obviously Ipswich like probably you guys and girls haven't before the championship days when we used to go down there and used to go up the stairs and used to sing and used to bring whatever 1,000, 1,500 fans, whatever like that. Taking 3,000 fans to Ipswich in that old school ground, oh my god, it is like a death trap. It's just the next level. I mean, it was great and a great atmosphere, but it was just completely different. You sort of walk in the door and then you're like spending 15 minutes trying to get up the stairs to your seat because it's just not designed for Premier League football at all. Kind of remind me of the old Griffin Park, it has to be said. Griffin Park, God rest his soul, which disappeared off the face of the earth, and Brentford fans are very sad about that still. But yeah, so those are the players, like I said to you, that I'm throwing into the mixer for you to have a little look out for at the weekends.
Mm-hmm. And I was wondering then, on the flip side of that, where are Fulham going to be able to hurt Brentford this weekend? Where have Brentford been a little bit weaker?
Again, Fulham's scouting department will know exactly where to go, so it's not any secrets that'll be given away there as well. I mean, traditionally, sort of kind of defensively, this season, if you looked, keeping the clean sheet was a problem for Brentford. We were a bit sort of Kevin Keegan-esque, as we call it. You know what I'm saying? So, we'll score 5 goals and we let in 4. That was kind of like, where our kind of vibe was. And a lot of that, I think, it's got to do with this transitional defence that we keep on trying to pull together to try and make things happen. And in the end, it's almost like, I wouldn't say that we've been rescued by the Reeses and the Mbumas of the world, but that's just kind of how it's been with us. They've got us out of certain holes with their goal scoring. As of late, defensively, we've become a lot better. I think Van der Berg, who we bought from Liverpool, again, we bought him from Liverpool. He's a central defender, but again, we were struggling. So we put him on the right because we didn't have anyone to play on the right. And he was like, oh no. But on the right, he was all right, but he wasn't that great, to be quite honest with you. And then a lot of fans were like, oh God, we bought this kid for like 20,000 from Liverpool and he's not that great, blah, blah, blah. But then when we moved him into the centre eventually, when I think we got an injury and then he moved into the centre, then we were like, oh, actually, he's actually quite a good player. I think Aya came back in so he could play on the right. So he's actually come back in there, and him and Collins in the defence have been very, very good. I think the midfield, and I'm looking at the midfield because sometimes, again, especially with a team like Fulham, it's about who's going to dominate, who's going to win the midfield. I think we played one game against you. I think back in the days as well, when you had the Carneys and people like that, it was always kind of like who's going to win that midfield battle. And Norgard, brilliant player, but doesn't necessarily or can't necessarily play all the matches because he's getting on a little bit. I'm not saying he's really, really old. So sometimes it's dependent on Norgard, if he's in the team, how he plays within the team, and if they get that midfield, you get that midfield domination. I mean, Damsgaard is great when he plays in midfield, but then often sometimes it's a combination of who you put in with these players. And if Fulham get in there, get their midfield domination, because listen, I know that you're great on the ball, like I said to you, your coach, I think he's a brilliant coach. I'm saying I think you've got some really, really good players, and that's why we won't underestimate you at all. I'm not going to underestimate you at all. And I know you've lost how many games, but that means absolutely nothing to us because in a minute you can flip it, you can get a result, and then you can, you can win your last 3 matches. So that for me is the area where if you can get a hold on our midfield, we're not firing necessarily on all cylinders. If our defence is maybe like it was before, and also if Fleckham stops one of his mistakes, which he has in him every now and again.
Okay, well, I mean, fingers crossed that Brentford are having a rare off day from our perspective on Sunday, because I would love nothing more than to pick up the 3 points in this one. I usually end by asking for score predictions, but I feel like with the Derby game, it's not quite right. Like, I'm feeling all kinds of nervous. I don't want to jinx anything. So all I'm going to do is say thank you so much, Billy, for joining me today.
That's all right. No, thanks very much for inviting us on. Like I said to you, always love doing the Fulhamish. Like I said, we normally get Sammy in down the pub to do a bit of a podcast with us as well. But it's been really great chatting to you. I'm actually going to go down the pub this evening. Go down to Richmond. We're going to be recording Richmond, probably on Richmond Green or something like that. So we're going to be recording our podcast for the Fulham game. You'll check it out on prideofwest.london as well. And we'll also have a post-match podcast straight after the game. We always do that, where we literally stick our microphones under fans' noses, Brentford fans and Fulham fans' noses, put it up straight after the game. So that should be up hopefully by about 6 o'clock on Sunday evening as well, which is always worth a listen, win or lose, as they say. So thanks very much for having us on.
Thank you. And thank you for watching the preview. We'll be back after the game with the quick take, hopefully celebrating a victorious Derby win. We can just keep our fingers and all our toes crossed. And all that's left for me to say is, come on, you Whites.
You bees.